Let's go ahead and create an Azure availability set. I'm here in a resource group I've called Web App. And typically, you're going to create availability sets where you have applications that have multiple tiers, or at least a single tier that has redundancy. The key here is that you've got redundancy built into the layers of the application. So it's not just a single web server and a single database. It's multiple web servers that scale out and multiple databases behind it. One of the more common places you'll find an availability set is in conjunction with a scale set. So let's go ahead and create an availability set, and then we'll add a virtual machine to it. So here's the availability set in the marketplace. And we'll click on create. We're going to give it a name. We're going to call this one the front end availability set. So this would be an example of a name we would use for an availability set assigned to the front end of a multi-tier web application. I have an existing resource group. And then we've got to define the configuration of the availability set. You can have up to 3 fault domains. And if you click the little tooltip, you get the explanation. Any time that you have multiple VMs in the same fault domain, they share a common power source and physical network topology. So if you were to think of this as a cluster, 3 fault domains would be comparable, at least conceptually, to a 3-node cluster. 2 availability set fault domains will be comparable to a 2-node cluster. In essence, with a 3 fault domains, 1/3 of your capacity can be affected by a failure. With 2, half your capacity can be affected by a failure. Then we have update domains. Update domains are different than fault domains. Update domains, and if you click the tooltip, it gives you a good explanation, allows you to control the availability of your application during planned maintenance. Planned maintenance is much more likely than an actual underlying fault. So therefore, you can have many update domains. If you have, let's say, 10 virtual machines and you have 5 update domains, if you were to update those virtual machines, let's say Azure were to roll out a patch or to perform underlying maintenance, only 2 of those virtual machines of the 10 would be affected. So again, update domain is the number of virtual machines that can be taken offline for the purpose of performing updates. And no more than 1 update domain can be affected at a time. So fault domain is similar to the number of nodes in a cluster. An update domain, again, is a similar concept, but it's related specifically to updates that are deployed, which are going to be more frequent and more likely. And then finally, the type of disks that you have, because these are typically used with virtual machines, you can decide at the availability set level whether or not you're going to be using managed disks. If you're using managed disks, then the storage accounts for the update or for the fault domains are aligned with the virtual machines. If they're not, then you have to manually create an availability set and manually have multiple storage accounts and place your virtual hard disks in the appropriate storage account. So by setting this to manage, again, it's one of the biggest benefits of managed disks. By setting this to yes, Azure ensures that all the virtual hard disks are in or not in the same update domain, but aligned with the update domain for the virtual machines themselves. So you cannot be adversely affected by an underlying storage failure. Click create on that, and it will go out and create the availability set. And that just takes just a few seconds. Now you can do this in PowerShell as well. Create a new availability set. Again, supply very similar parameters. I'm going to briefly call this one set 2. We can also do a similar thing using the Azure Unified Client, AZ VM availability set. We just look at the help. You can see a number of different options such as create. And if we type create, you can see that this supports all the required parameters, such as the resource group name, and then the parameters platform fault domain count, platform update domain count, location, and whether or not it uses managed or unmanaged disks. With the unified client, if you omit unmanaged, it will default to managed disks. So I'm going to go pop back into our Azure portal, go to my web app resource group, and we can see that our availability set is now created and available to use. Using the availability set is just a matter of referencing it. So if I, for example, create a virtual machine, so we'll come in here and just begin the virtual machine creation process. Windows Server 2016. And just go through this real quick. Pick a size and just get to our settings. Here's where we can choose the availability set, and if I click on it, you can see that I have now the option to choose my front-end availability set. Now again, putting a single role VM in an availability set really accomplishes nothing because it's the equivalent of deploying it on a one node cluster, so to speak. You want to have multiple virtual machines performing the same role in an availability set in order for that availability set to be effective. So that's our look at how we create availability sets.